manga readers, welcome to September's reading log video. This month I read over 60 volumes of manga. I continued some series that I was reading before, and I also started some new series as well. I'm excited to get into it and talk about the ones that I really loved, the ones that I thought were okay, and the ones that weren't so good. So let's get into it. We've got a lot of things to cover this month. This month I finished reading the entire Our Dreams at Dusk series. I personally loved this series as it felt very raw, emotional, and honest. However, I can see how this series may be triggering to some readers. So if you're thinking of reading this manga, please be aware of the content warnings on screen now. This series can be summed up as a coming-of-age story involving multiple LGBTQ+ characters who are young and are trying to understand themselves and others. Their attempts often fail, and at times they bully each other out of their own self-hatred. That being said, it can be difficult at times to read due to the usage of slurs and homophobic statements. There are a fair amount of stressful moments in this series that can be intense for some readers. I enjoyed getting to see the characters grow and learn from their mistakes. I personally loved this series due to the amount of queer representation, honesty, art, story, and the well-concluded ending. I got to read volumes 4 through 6 of Witch Hat Atelier, and somehow this series just keeps getting better. The art is out of this world, the plot is so good, the world building is excellent. It's got everything. Up to this point in the story, without spoiling anything, there are great plot points that are bubbling up to the surface. There are many questions that I have. There are many little mysteries that I am excited to read about in the future volumes. This series has got suspense and drama and action. It's just got everything. The characters are amazing. I love how all of the characters use magic in their own unique way. So if you're into witches or magic, stories with that kind of stuff in it, this is going to be a great read for you. I got to read the second omnibus of the Yokohama Karaishi Kiko series. The books themselves are so high quality and they contain multiple full-color pages, which are such a treat. The story continues to be a relaxing but yet engaging one. We get to see Alpha create stronger friendships, and we also get to see some other characters grow in their own short chapters. I recommend this series if you like slow-paced slice of life and if you have an interest in some mild sci-fi as well. I also got to read Volume 2 of Cat Gamer, and I've mentioned this in a previous video, but Cat Gamer truly is the perfect series to read after a rough day. It's such a fluffy, feel-good series that follows the life of a gamer and her newly adopted cat. It's so adorable and has plenty of RPG references that gamers would enjoy. This volume is even better than the first. There are even more funny moments as well as cute ones. We get introduced to some new characters which really help this series come to life. If you like cute cats, video games, and want something easy to read, this is a great pick. I got to continue Shonen Note Boy Soprano this month. I read the 4th volume and I'm still loving this series. You will hear me say this multiple times, but I f***ing love Yuki Kamatani, so maybe I'm a bit biased when it comes to their work, but this series just feels so honest and beautiful, much like other works from them. The story so far has carried along at a good pace. The character development that happens up to this volume is rewarding, and I'm just excited to see what comes next in the 5th volume. If you're into visual metaphors, choirs, slice of life, coming of age stories, I definitely recommend this series. I don't have much to say other than this series keeps surprising me in how it stays fresh and avoids feeling episodic. I'm sure most of you have heard of Spy Family, and if you've been on the fence about it, give it a shot. It's funny, action-packed, and filled with wholesome moments as well. Volume 10 is scheduled to release October 4th, which is just around the corner, and I'm so excited. I would like everyone to know that I fucking love this series to pieces. This series is a wonderful mix of recipes, slice of life, and gay romance. I followed some of the recipes loosely with great success. In fact, the tomato egg drop soup from Volume 2 is now a staple in my home. The main characters are a gay couple in their 40s that have a cute old married couple dynamic, which is adorable. Kenji is a fun and outgoing hairdresser, and Shiro is a lawyer. He's more serious, but still kind and sweet. Together they have a great dynamic. Kenji will often get Shiro in a better, more carefree mood, and Shiro helps with things like cooking and budgeting. Basically, he makes sure that they're well taken care of. This series moves slowly, which I adore because it makes moments of character development feel even more meaningful. You feel like you're really getting to know the characters. Don't expect this series to be like other BL series. This manga is very much focused on the simple day-to-day life that the couple share. They work, come home, cook, and eat together, talk about their lives, and that's pretty much it. There are still moments of sweetness and subtle romance. Just don't expect the romance to be over the top. I'd recommend this series if you like slice of life, recipes, and very mild but still cute gay romance. I read volume 2 of Shoha Shoten, and this series is about a comedy duo in high school who are determined to get to the top. With the second volume, the plot just got more interesting, which I love. I won't say how, but just know that if you've read volume 1 and not volume 2 yet, it's definitely worth your time. I read the omnibus volumes 3 and 4 of One Piece and had a great time. I won't say anything about the story since I don't want to spoil it, but just know that if you've been thinking about reading One Piece, you should give it a shot. I personally was on the fence since I'm not a big fan of pirates, but man, I have been enjoying this manga so much. Right now, the One Piece live action series on Netflix has been super popular, so I know a lot more people are thinking about reading the manga, and I think you totally should. Also, side note, for Halloween, I think I'm going to dress up as the live action version of Luffy in overalls. We're both Mexican and we both have the same haircut and hair texture, so it would be an easy costume for Halloween. Moving on to the series that are new to me this month. She Loves to Cook and She Loves to Eat. I read volumes 1 and 2 and I absolutely adored them. It's a beautiful thing to see honest affection between two adult women. As the title suggests, one of the women, Yuki, loves to cook and dreams of cooking big portion meals with pricey ingredients. They, however, live alone and have a small appetite, but their cooking dreams come true when they meet one of their neighbors, Kasuga, who loves to eat. She eats big portions and seems to always have room for more. Yuki begins to share leftovers with her neighbor Kasugi, and slowly but surely a bond grows between them. It's refreshing to see a romance between two adults who are mature and show affection in subtle ways. The characters clearly pay attention to each other's preferences and needs. They are good at communicating with each other and are supportive of one another as well. As I was reading through these volumes, I blushed and cried at the amount of cuteness this series exudes. There are several cooking sequences in this series that are just mouth-watering. The mangaka did an amazing job in being able to convey the deliciousness of each meal the two share. If you've been looking for a good manga about women loving women, and you love food-related series, look no further. This is a perfect match. This month I read volumes 1 through 4 of Something's Wrong With Us. Lots of people have been talking about this series and I was hesitant to read it, but I saw that it was going for a good price digitally, so I got it and read it on my Kindle, and I like it so far. It's not a masterpiece by any means, it's very dramatic and mysterious, but I'm at the point of no return. I need answers, I need to know how this train wreck ends, so I'm buckled in. This series is about two wagashi makers, Nao, who learn wagashi from her mother, and Tsubaki, who comes from a family of talented wagashi makers. Nao and Tsubaki first meet when they are children, since Nao's mom ends up working for Tsubaki's parents at their wagashi shop. We see how young Nao falls in love with wagashi, as well as Tsubaki, and is very pleased with her life until disaster hits. Tsubaki's father is killed, and Tsubaki says that he saw Nao's mother with his father. This raises suspicion, and she is charged with murder. However, years and years later, Nao receives a letter from her mom that says, "I didn't do it." So Nao decides to squirm her way into the Tsubaki family and get answers about what really happened. She basically does this by getting engaged with Tsubaki, who, by the way, doesn't realize that she's Nao from his childhood, which is wild. So together they decide to go through with this sham marriage, and sometimes it appears as though they do have feelings for each other, but it's a very hot and cold relationship. So yeah, now I'm invested, and I just want to know what happens, and that's it. I read volumes 1 through 3 of Hyreth, The End of the Journey. This manga has my heart, dude. It's a fantastic story about life and death and how important it is to cherish those around you. This series contains triggering content, so if you're sensitive to the content mentioned on screen, please skip ahead to the timestamp that you now see on screen. Mika is a young teenager who doesn't see the point in living anymore. She attempts to end her life to meet her friend who has passed away on the other side. However, her life is saved by Hibino, who we soon find out is immortal. Hibino is accompanied by Hani, who is a god, and they both take Mika to a safe spot to see if she's okay. She wakes up and is upset that she was saved. Hibino tries to talk sense into her and tells her that she's too young to die, but she doesn't listen. Hani and Hibino realize that they can't change her mind, so they allow her to join them on their journey to death. We learn that Hani is a god who is dying due to people forgetting their name and no longer praying to them. So Hani is traveling to the underworld in order to pass on, and Hibino is joining them in hopes that he will be able to pass on after living for centuries. Mika joins them in excitement, hoping to reunite with her friend in the afterlife. This series is 3 volumes long, and I wish it was longer, but it was an amazing ride. The volumes follow them as they take a road trip, making stops at shrines and all the little places they want to see before they die. I loved everything about this series. The art and story is beautiful. The characters are lovable. Currently, this series is not out physically in English, but it's available in ebook format. I really hope that this series gets a physical English release. It would be really cool if it was just one omnibus, hardcover, or in a box set. I would buy it in a heartbeat. I love this story, I love these characters. This is another home run from Yuki Kamatani. This month I also read My Brother's Husband Volumes 1 and 2, which completes the series. This series was so good. It made me cry and it made me laugh. The story follows a small family, Yaichi, a single father, and Kana, his daughter. They have a family member stay at their house who came all the way from Canada, and that family member is Mike, Kana's uncle, Yaichi's brother-in-law. Mike is there to visit Japan and visit different places his late husband had talked about. At first, Yaichi is very judgmental towards Mike. He focuses too much on himself and worries that Mike might take a liking to him if he isn't careful. Like for example, Yaichi usually doesn't wear a shirt around the house after taking a bath, but since Mike is there, he puts on a shirt because he thinks it wouldn't be appropriate since Mike is gay. Yaichi's behavior at the start of the story made my eyes roll so hard, but with time he warms up to Mike and realizes that he's focusing too much on himself and that Mike is here to mourn and celebrate the life of his late husband. I loved this series so much. I loved getting to see this family grow closer together, and I especially loved seeing Mike and his niece connect. It's a wholesome slice of life series that will get some tears out of you. I read the omnibus volumes 1 and 2 of Life Lessons with Uramichi Onisan. I'm sure you've heard of Life Lessons with Uramichi Onisan, but just in case you haven't, I'd describe it as a deadpan comedy with moments of dark humor. I think a lot of adults would find the humor in this series to be relatable, since it focuses on topics such as work exhaustion, social obligations, feelings of loneliness, and discontent. The story follows Uramichi, who was a former professional gymnast, now working as an exercise instructor on a TV show for kids. On TV, he puts forward a happy and charming persona, but in reality, he is worn out and jaded. His pessimistic personality does come out multiple times while taping shows, which is funny since the kids are usually either confused or deeply concerned for him. The humor in this series can sometimes feel a bit over the top, which is my biggest critique, but those moments are few. This series can feel episodic since it follows Uramichi's life, which consists of going to work and hanging out with people he doesn't want to. But over time, you get to learn more about the characters and how their stories connect. The art style itself is great. I love the character designs and all the hilarious expressions they have as well. I definitely recommend this one if you're looking for some deadpan humor that's a little bit dark. This month I read volume 1 of Donuts Under a Crescent Moon. I love my fluffy queer romance mangas, but I'm not 100% sure if I'm into this one. The story is about 2 office workers who basically bump into each other and start liking each other right away. I feel like it all happens so fast. The characters themselves also feel a little plain and one note. I don't think this volume is bad, it's good, but it's not something that I'm excited to read. I might try reading the next volume and share more of my thoughts about it then. I think I'll be able to form a better opinion having read more, so please keep in mind that these are just my thoughts after reading the first volume. Okay, I read volume 1 of Fangs. I saw it on Libby, which is a free library service, and I thought, okay, sure, I'll give it a shot. And it's not good, so moving on. Well, I'll give some more information as to why I don't think it's good. I didn't really like it because it kind of glorifies abusive relationships, which is gross, so that's why. Now moving on. I read the first 7 volumes of Full Metal Alchemist from my library a month or 2 ago, and I was hooked. I needed to read the rest of the series, and I did. I read through this series so quick, I wasn't even trying to do that. but it happened. The writing is just so good in these volumes, it's hard not to read multiple in one sitting. Fullmetal Alchemist is widely known and popular, so you've likely heard of it, but in case you haven't, it's an action series where two brothers who've studied alchemy have committed a great sin. They tried to transmute a human, specifically their mom who had passed away. Creating or recreating humans using alchemy is prohibited, and in order to pay the toll for their sins, their bodies are changed. Edward pays the toll with his arm and leg, and Al, his younger brother, becomes a soul trapped in a suit of armor. Edward promises his little brother that they'll get back their original bodies no matter what, and so the journey begins. Now that I've read all the volumes, I can confidently say that Fullmetal Alchemist is one of my favorite series of all time. All the characters are well written and have a surprising amount of depth to them. The series hits all the right notes. There are moments of comedy sprinkled throughout that help balance the darker moments in this series. The action, combat scenes are exciting and suspenseful. The ending is well done. Altogether, this is a series that is worth your time. I watched the first episode of the anime for Blue Period, and I immediately stopped watching it because I knew I wanted to read it first. I really enjoyed the first 2 volumes, and it inspired me to get back into painting and art. Blue Period is about a high schooler, Yatora, who people often label as a delinquent because he smokes and has multiple ear piercings. He drinks and smokes and watches soccer games with his friends, but one day he has a sort of epiphany. As he's leaving the bar with his friends early in the morning, he notices how peaceful Shibuya is. He appreciates how blue, quiet, and empty Shibuya can be in the early hours of the day, and is inspired to paint that scene for his art project at school. He gets a lot of satisfaction from painting that scene, and from there begins his deep dive into the world of art. He joins the art club and decides that he is going to pursue art with all he's got. He's determined to get into TUA, which is one of the hardest art schools to get into in Japan. I'm excited to keep reading this series and see where Yatora goes with his passion for art. I read the first volume of Akane Banashi this month. Everyone seemed to be talking about this manga and its release was highly anticipated, so I decided, why not give it a try? I love manga series that revolve around some classic hobby/profession in Japan, like Wagashi in Something's Wrong with Us and Shogi in March Comes In Like a Lion. Akane Banashi is all about the art of rakugo, which is a form of storytelling performed all by one person. The story follows our main character, Akane, who loves her dad to bits and is amazed by his rakugo skills. She watches him practice at home and perform on stage, just thinking that he's the coolest dad ever. Her dad is determined to rise higher in the ranks of rakugo and ultimately fails, so Akane decides to devote herself to the art of rakugo and get to the top to avenge her dad. I loved this first volume. The art did a great job of depicting what rakugo performance feels like to the audience. The main character is also great. She's tough and talented. She still has moments of doubt, but she pushes through them in an inspiring way. I can't wait to read more. The next one comes out October 10th. This month I also read volumes 1 and 2 of Frieren. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. This story takes place after the defeat of the Demon King. We see our heroes get celebrated and rejoice as they contemplate what comes next in life. Things like what hobbies to pursue, what new job to take on, etc. Frieren, however, the elf mage, doesn't see the point to changing what she's been doing. Her lifespan is enormously long compared to her human comrades. She tells them that she plans on continuing to search for new magic spells for many decades, and says that she'll come to visit afterward. As one can guess, decades pass and her old friends end up passing away. She continues her journey of discovering new magic and finds ways to honor her friends who are now either of old age or have passed away. It's a series that is very focused on the passage of time and how valuable it all is to humans, which is something Frieren is trying to understand. This is a series that I might end up dropping, not because it's bad, but because I just don't find it that entertaining or interesting. I got to read volume 1 of the Savior's Book Cafe story in Another World. This is the ultimate fluffy read. Tsukina is such a cool character. She's in her 30s and she is so detailed and considerate. I absolutely love her. She is sent to another world as a savior and gets multiple wishes granted as compensation. She is so meticulous and precise with her wishes, which is just awesome. Her goal is basically to live the most peaceful and safe life as possible, which just so happens to be my goal too. She wishes for a beautiful book cafe in the forest. Her book cafe is coziness manifested. Her menu is filled with delicious meals and drinks. I wish I could go to her cafe so bad. She soon gets a regular visitor who also happens to be a bookworm. He starts going there daily to get some quiet rejuvenation time from his job of being a knight. Slowly but surely they become interested in each other, and it's so sweet how it develops. This is my top comfort read, and I can see myself rereading this many times. And that's all for today's video. Thanks so much if you watched all the way to the end. Thanks a lot, I really appreciate that. I love making these videos where I wrap up what I've read this month, and I want to know, what have you been reading? Are there any series that I should be reading? I'd love to know what you think and hear some of your recommendations, so drop them down in the comments. Alright, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.